you mentioned this word a few times, flow. You're like, I go with the flow. But that's what the work looks like. It's just the lettering is an extension of the poster, which is an extension of the music, which just, like I said, it's just like there is that flow to it, which I love. We should rename the title of the episode. We're going with the flow.
Go with the flow.
The flow. It's time for another episode of Best of the Tour. This is the show that takes you behind the scenes of your favorite gig posters, tour merch, and the artists who bring it all to life. Let's start the show.
Welcome back to Best of the Tour podcast. This is episode number 12. This is an artist interview with the gig poster artist, Tiffany Chin. Tiffany, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think we'll kick it off with a little bit of bio for our listeners. Tiffany is based in Toronto. She's an illustrator and poster artist known for her psychedelic and sort of pop art style inspired by 1960s and 70s rock posters and vintage advertisements. Her work is characterized by bold colors, intricate details, and surreal compositions. And I'll just say she's done work for so many of our favorite bands in the industry, from Mount Joy to Phish, Ween, and one of our big favorites where we know Tiffany's work from best, Goose the band. So I thought maybe we would jump in there because we love, and I think some of our listeners love, sort of those details of how you get connected to a band and maybe how inspiration came about for certain pieces. And I know you've done some work for Goose at their Mexico festival called El Gonzo. Mm-hmm. I think you did some work for them at their Goosemas 2024 event down in Charleston, South Carolina, the bingo. So maybe talk to us a little bit about that to kick things off.
I think my first Goose gig, if you would call it that, was their El Gonzo for 2025, so the first one. It was a lot of fun to do such a, I guess, extensive package for such a big event to that scale. And I think it was like my first super large event, so it was very exciting. And then my second one with Goose was Goosemas, to do like a little bingo themed t-shirt. And I guess for inspiration, I just roll with the punches, put on some of Goose's music or whoever I'm working for's music and just see where my brain takes me.
Well, that is when I look at your work and I think of Goose, there is a direct correlation between the fun and joy that for us as listeners and fans of the band, that your work then just really is like, I think somebody said it's like an extension of the music on paper. And I think that that's such a cool thing for us as collectors to be able to see the art on our walls that reflect the music, but also reflect like the experience and the event that we like attended. El Gonzo for us, we're really excited. Mike and I are big fans. We're actually going to be going in 2026, which you also did the artwork for as well. And this is, for those out there who are listening, it's called Viva El Gonzo. It is a festival. It's a music festival that Goose puts on down in the Baja Peninsula in San Jose del Cabo. And this past spring, in May of 2025, they had their first festival, and it went so well that they're doing it again. But it's so cool.
We had serious FOMO last year, Tiffany. We were watching from afar. We saw everybody have such a great time. And it was one of those things like, how do we make that happen for 26? So it became a big goal of ours, and we pulled the trigger. We booked the tickets, still working on flights. Flights are a little crazy down there right now, but was awesome to see your work shine again for the sort of like advertisement banner and kind of maybe the flag of the weekend.
Yeah, like I always try to, I guess, channel the sonic elements into some sort of visual depiction of the music, if that makes sense. I just try to go with the flow, and I'm really glad that you guys can recognize that. Well, I'm really trying to convey
it's great.
Sonic elements.
For that one, for El Gonzo specifically, because I know it's not just used online, it's used in their posters, it's used on their merch. There's going to be, I'm sure, swag that is used in all ways, shapes, and forms. And it's so cool because I saw somebody, I think they might have done goodie bags last year or this year, it's really 2025, with the Viva El Gonzo, with the bright colors and this sort of there was like a cat up in the top and this sort of Aztecian sun, but it's got its own unique vibes to it that it just is fresh. But it looks like, oh, this is a festival in Mexico, in the desert. There's
It had this real carnival vibe to it too. Like I love that, the poster just felt like this is that kind of thing that you would see, like the carnival or the circus is coming to town, and that's what these sort of like adventure weekends feel like to me, because you can go to a show and you can see your favorite band and it's incredible. But when you're at a festival weekend type thing and you have, not just Goose, but like in 23, they had War on Drugs and Pigeons playing ping pong and Eggy and, all these different artists. And now again in 26, same kind of thing. It's a full-on weekend festival with Goose headlining, but tons of different bands showing up. My Morning Jacket, Jim James, Pigeons, LP.
And a lot of these artists are ones that you also do individual posters for as well. So we've seen your work recently with Eggy, and I just thought that one was such a cool one, just like a cowboy boot. It just is so fresh and fun.
If you're like me and Erica, you love passing out stickers while attending concerts with friends, making new friends. Where do you get these stickers? Look no further than stickerrobot.com. They are renowned for the highest quality sticker printing on the planet, world famous, custom outdoor silkscreen sticker printing, free US shipping, and we have a promo for you. If you visit stickerrobot.com/invisible, you will receive 10% off your next high quality screen printed sticker order. So act fast.
Going right now.
Right now.
Right now. And also, thanks to our friends over at the Rock Poster Society. If you don't know TRPS, they are a nonprofit behind the world's longest-running rock poster collection shows. That includes the Festival of Rock Posters in San Francisco, which is a bucket list thing for Mike and I to go to. They have been championing the art of poster for decades. They support both the artists and those people who collect them and preserve them. If you want to get involved, go over to trps.org if you want to become a member and check out their upcoming events.
Check them out.
You mentioned your inspiration. We talked about it in the bio, like 1960s, 1970s. For those of us who might be a little older listeners, they may remember that. Us younger listeners, we only know it from kind of, the nostalgia and the inspirational like waterfall that it created over time. Tell us a little bit, like, how did you get so just inspired by this era, the 60s and 70s era?
Oh, that's kind of a loaded question. Like, I don't even know. Like, even as a really small kid, I had an attraction towards the 60s and 70s for some reason. Like, in the early days of YouTube, I binge watched The Brady Bunch out of all things as a kid.
I love it. Absolutely.
Like, it's kind of embarrassing, but
my first crush was on Marsha Brady as a kid. It's a true story. I wanted to invite Marsha Brady to my birthday party when I was a child. And my mom had to break it to me that she was like 47 years old at that point because these were reruns that I was watching, not current. So I'm right there with you. Brady Bunch, absolutely.
Yeah, like the Brady Bunch is just completely very 70s. And I started listening to classic rock in high school. And it wasn't until I guess my second year of art school in college, where we did this assignment. We were to like pick out a photo or an artwork, pick out an artwork from the textbook. And I came upon, I think it was a Victor Moscoso or psychedelic 1960s poster. And I was like, a switch flipped in my head. I was like, wow, this is what I want to model my artwork out of. It's just so intricate, it's detailed, it's colorful. There's just always something to look at, and that's what I strive to be as an artist too, just keep viewers engaged.
Well, there is so much uniqueness even within your style. So if you were looking at, let's say, a Pigeons playing ping pong versus an Eggy versus a Phish, like each one has its own sort of theme or sort of tone to it or color scheme that it's like you can see your work in different bands, but you still have that kind of like fingerprint of like, this is a Tiffany Chin, which is so, I think it's really amazing for us as poster collectors. That's one of the kind of cornerstones I love to see is like when I see a piece of work and I immediately know who the artist is. That to me, it's like you're at that level where it's like I have a visibility and an awareness of a style that is tied to the brain of the artist. And then the 60s and 70s, wow, like just music wise. So what music was it that you started? You said classic rock. Like what was it that like was like tied you into the 60s, 70s?
I think I started off with the classics, like Rolling Stones, Zeppelin, Cream, and they all came with beautiful posters, like the blacklight posters of Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
Some of Cream's artwork albums are gorgeous, that kind of thing. And gradually I moved on to like Doobie Brothers, soft rock, Carpenters, that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Just everything 70s. I love it.
Mhm.
Yeah, and there's definitely that vibe. I mean, I get that from all of your pieces, and what Erica was saying, it definitely has that quality that you can see. You've got your sort of artist stamp on it. Like we can tell, like, oh, this is a Tiffany Chin piece, absolutely. But then at the same time, I find it really interesting that you can make something look so identifiable by your style, but each one is so incredibly different. Your choice in color theory for each poster and just the way that you sort of explore the space. Some of them are more almost like framed out, and then others you just kind of, you're like, I'm going to do away with the frame and just go a little bit wild on this one. And I just think that's a really interesting approach, and wanted to hear more about like how that started and where that sort of progresses in your work.
I try to put my personal style into everything I do, honestly. Like, I want people to know that, hey, this is a Tiffany Chin work as opposed to someone else's. So I think that's really important from a branding standpoint, to kind of like preserve my career in a sense. But I just, go with the flow. I really don't have anything else to say about, how I come up with ideas. Like, obviously, have to meet certain requirements, like, certain imagery that the band or client wants. That's really important. But, I just possessed by whatever music or wherever my brain takes me on that specific day. And also like pushing myself. Sometimes I'll do consecutive posters where I build a very symmetrical frame, and then I kind of want to break out of that shell and do something asymmetrical for the next one.
What I wanted to ask you about, because it's one of my favorite pieces that has popped up on the scene recently, is it's Goose from Milwaukee. It's like a big cake, and it was from this winter tour. And I remember it popped up when they, so Goose it's really cool. They'll show before they, well, we watch them on Nugs if we can't attend live, but they'll air them live. But if you're at the show, they'll put up on their Instagram like, t-shirt, venue t-shirt, and poster. And I remember seeing this one and I was like, that is so much fun. Like there was just, it's
a party atmosphere. It's like, welcome to the Goose party, which is what we feel like when we go to these shows. So.
And so out of curiosity, I know sometimes, like you said, artists they like what's tying to the venue or the location or the city or like themes that the band wants you to have in there. But this just felt like this was just like, I'm just going to have fun. Like you can have your cake and eat it too, almost.
Yeah, like you just nailed it on the head. I just want to have fun with it. And it's always someone's birthday. So maybe someone was going for their birthday to the show. I don't know. And I love drawing food as well. So it was kind of like related to my love for food. And my goal when I draw food is to interpret it in a way that's interesting, because we all know what a cake looks like. So how can I make this, make you stare at it a little bit, make it interesting, make you think a little.
Now, is the love of food because you love to eat? Are you a foodie? Do you just love like culinary experiences, or is it just a design element? Because to me, I think of like when I did art class, like you used to have to draw still life, and I'm sure
with a bowl of fruit,
right?
Yeah.
And some of us are not as talented as others in the drawing drawing scheme. But like fruit is such a classical element in art.
I have to admit, I am quite a foodie. I love to eat, and I'm sure a lot of people do. But also, it's something universal. We all have an opinion of food. We're disgusted by it. We love it, and I think it sparks a universal interest without having to listen to a specific type of music, for instance, or understand a certain niche that you're trying to convey through your work. Like everyone eats. We all have an opinion on it. And, it's just more universally accessible.
Yeah. That I've like never really thought of it from that perspective of like, there is a line that's like everybody likes. We all have this one thing that we can kind of agree on, whether you like it or not. But there are these just
Yeah, but I'm looking at your you did a poster for Cosmic Crisp as well that sort of unravels an apple in a very creative way. So I see exactly what you mean about sort of that reinterpretation of the food, right? Like, and this would be to your point, like it's not just like let's do a still of an apple. It's, I mean, it's sort of unraveling and at the same time sort of fading into the space-time continuum, which is pretty awesome.
it kind of reminds me like 19 when we would watch like in the 80s, you know, like in the commercials in between our cartoons.
Like the more you know,
Like
kind
the
of
more
thing.
you know.
A little bit.
I wasn't around, so I'm going to take your word for it.
Talk to us a little bit about your choice of color, Tiffany, because that's one of the elements that I love about your work is that I don't think I see any other poster artist out there really with this sort of breadth of like color palette choice and like just the interesting balances. Like you'll bring a green and a purple together, but then you'll use tones that are a little bit softer or like, you know, not quite pastel, but like a little bit more, yeah, soft than just like a bright green, bright purple. So I'm not sure how better to describe it than that, other than I think your choice of color and your color theory is amazing.
Thank you. I'd like to take credit that it's mostly self-taught, but a lot of it's influenced by Victor Moscoso and his use of contrasting colors that just really radiate against each other. And I try to pair those complementary colors or clashing colors with, I guess, some more muted balance surrounding it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think
so
that
it's all about
muted was the
balance.
word I was looking for.
Victor Moscoso he's like the godfather of poster art. And we hear so many artists that we've gotten the pleasure to talk to who are inspired by his work and the foundation that was kind of created in that era to be able to now, for us as collectors in the, you know, the 2020s, to be able to have artwork because of what him and his contemporaries did in the 60s and the 70s. And for modern day artists to still be pulling back inspiration from him, I think it just goes to show how unbelievably influential he is in the industry. Very similar to like the classic rock artists from the 60s and 70s and what the music we listen to today and how still heavily inspired it is from that era as well.
Yeah, for sure. Like everything creative is influenced by the past. That's where we learn. People sometimes say, oh, this person ripped off so and so, but it's just all influence. It's a path to learn, I guess.
That there's a difference, I think, between inspiration and like just straight like ripping somebody off. I do. I think that it's when you can take something that brings you joy, that says, wow, this is incredible, and how do I like put my own thumbprint on it?
Yeah. And I mean, to Tiffany's point, like if you're so inspired to begin creating and you know, create the artwork, chances are you've found joy and sort of a passion in, you know, consuming somebody else's artwork, right? And like dissecting it, looking at it, understanding it. And so it makes total sense. And I can't see anything that's not original about your work. It's just a very, I think, fresh approach, and it gives a very positive and uplifting feel when I see it. When I see a Tiffany Chin poster, whether it's for Goose or Humphreys or Mountjoy or Phish, it really just has this, I think, pretty consistent positive effect on like the way that I absorb it. It's not scary. It's not horrific. You know, I'm trying to think of like the contrast, right? Like skeletons are done a lot. Sometimes they're friendly skeletons. Sometimes they're not so friendly skeletons. But that would be kind of one end of the spectrum, maybe the grotesque or whatnot. This is that complete opposite. It's like joy and colorful and happy and like a party, like, you know, almost like a party popper is going off. You know, you pull the string and the confetti comes out, and like this is sort of like, it's that kind of a feel to me.
Oh, I never thought about my work like that, but it totally makes sense now because one of my goals is to, I guess, temporarily bring people into a happier place, just momentarily. You know, look at a piece of artwork that's not on your phone and, feel some joy.
I love that, and I would say mission accomplished. Absolutely, yeah, because that's what I get every time we, as Erica said, we follow Goose pretty closely. That winter tour last year, every time we saw one of your pieces come up, it was like just ear to ear grinning. I was like, that is just a really beautiful piece.
Now, there are certain bands I think that it looks like you have recurring work for. Are there particular bands that you enjoy doing work for just because it's either like the management is really cool to work with, they give you a little freedom, flexibility? Not saying that you have to pick a favorite, because I would never ask you to pick a favorite, but...
Oh, are you going to get me in trouble here?
No, we don't want to get her in trouble.
Don't get in trouble.
I'm kidding.
Meaning, but I see...
She loves them all. All of them.
Yes, yeah. I think that, we saw, a bunch that came through with Goose, and it was like, this is, for us as collectors, I love seeing a new, fresh name of somebody that I can then get into their artwork for. And I think that, you're a lot of your work is all kind of across the spectrum, as far as festivals like Bonnaroo, and then, El Gonzo, and then individual bands that, you kind of get to dig into their music or create new pieces for them. And I guess that's what I'm trying to say is how do you keep a unique perspective on the artwork for the bands that you do reoccurring artwork for? Maybe that's a better question.
Oh, that's even a harder question. I never thought of it, honestly. I just tried to really challenge myself to do something different, because if you're not challenging yourself and you're not uncomfortable, then that means you're probably not growing. So, I tried to, do something that I haven't done before, or reinterpret something that I have done and really try to push the envelope. Or I just put on a few songs that I haven't listened from that band before, do a deep dive perhaps, watch some movies. Sorry, not movies, music videos. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you ever want to then create a universe amongst posters, though? As the sort of the opposite side of that question, which is, I'm going to do a poster for Goose, and I've done one recently, and I want to have maybe an element that was in one poster that bleeds over into the other, that can then create a world of itself on paper.
You know what? That's a really cool idea. Kind of like a series. I've never thought of that, actually, because I tried to differentiate each client from one another, because I kind of want to create something unique for each client, but that's a very interesting idea. So
yeah,
even...
I like that, because Easter eggs for me, it's one of my favorite things. And so your work is chock full of them. There's details upon details and new experiences in every corner of your artwork. I was thinking of the one, I think, is it a 2-night one from the Eggy tour, and they're two different boots. One of them's a cowboy boot, the other one's a 1970s hippie kind of flare legging vibe. And so they obviously are a pair, but they're different. It's I think of the story that could be created amongst the two of those. Where are these two shoes descending downstairs to, and what are they about to go? Are they going to the Eggy show? Are they meeting up after the
yeah, it's cool. There's one, it's sort of your 70s kind of high-rise platform shoe with a bell bottom, and then the other one is the cowboy boot with the bell bottom. It looks like they used one for a specific night or two in Toronto, and then the other one was used for a series of shows. Is that right?
Yeah, it was
those are fire.
It was intended to be a diptych, and they wanted to depict, or the show was about empowering women, doing covers of Joni Mitchell, Carly Simon, that type of thing. And so I wanted to create something that's very striking, but yet feminine, kind of powerful representation of women, but also do some little storytelling bits in there.
Yeah, it has that sort of Nancy Sinatra, boots are made for walking kind of feel to it.
Yeah, it's a very powerful shapes. Yes. Rather.
Well, and there's also little nods. I think they look like little lipstick tubes, almost like they're, pieces of a candelabra. But to me, it looks like it could be I'm going to put my lipstick on and I'm going to go, save the world.
Take care of the town.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. That's a lipstick.
I love that. So when you're trying to stay inspired, What do you do to stay inspired? Is it listening to music? Do you go see, shows? Is it other artists?
I think for me, I like to do deep dives of music every now and then, watch some documentaries and, see where that takes me. But I'm always drawing in some capacity, and sometimes, I get burnt out. And sometimes I'm like, what's that term they use in sports? Gosh, I can't think of it right now. Flow state. Sometimes
Oh, flow
I'm
state.
in the flow state
Yep.
and I'm just like going head on. But I think a lot of it has to do with mental drive, being really self-driven, especially in this industry where you're working by yourself. You got to keep your head on tight and just keep pushing forward regardless. Just get the reps in essentially.
Where do you go to kind of get support? If, it is kind of a solitary job where, you're focused in creating, but, how do you create community in your own industry to keep you connected?
For me, Instagram is a huge one. Like I'm not really a social media person, but Instagram has helped me land so many jobs, has helped me connect with fellow artists in the poster world. And honestly, without it, I don't think I would have the support that I do now. Like it's such an integral part of this job, even if I hate to admit it, but it's just so important because art is visual, Instagram is visual, and that's how art directors find you and how your followers find you as well.
Yeah, it's hard to say. It's like we rely on the social media algorithms to try to stay relevant and to be in front of either the consumers or the potential clients, right? But we also forget it could also be used for good, for connection and for community in a way that doesn't have any boundaries, barriers, borderlines, any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and now the industry's changing. We've talked to artists before, and I know before we hopped on here, Tiffany, we started to just kind of touch on AI, and I know that everybody has some sort of strong, passionate thoughts about this, but just to kind of like interested on the impact you've seen or your take around the AI programs and sort of the what's I like the phrase AI slop. I didn't come up with it. Somebody else came up with it, but I think it's like the human eye is becoming more and more trained to recognize that's not really done by a creator. That's some type of a computer generated image and it's really just scroll on by, not really worth my time. Not the same impact that we receive when we see a new piece from a favorite artist for a band that we love. So just kind of interested in your 2 cents and take on it from your seat.
There definitely is a lot of AI slop going around. And I think the younger generation knows how to recognize what AI actually looks like, especially in forms of images and videos. Um, and a lot of people ask me the question, oh, are you afraid of AI taking over your job? And initially, maybe like 1 or 2 years ago, yes, because we didn't know what AI was capable of doing. But now that companies have used AI to create promos and images, posters, you name it. It just looks cold. It's not the same. And honestly, like it doesn't really affect artists because the people who hire, or not hire, but people who use AI typically aren't people who really value art in the first place. So they probably wouldn't go out of their way to hire an artist to represent their brand.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really make a difference to me for now, but I think it's really important to also be able to recognize AI and see where it develops and to adapt with it.
Yeah, I think that's right on. I mean, my feeling is similar, especially when we talk about the gig art space for music, because I feel like there's as much of a discussion going on in the music industry right now with some of these sort of AI created bands and whatnot that are on Spotify. Or I saw an article the other day that said there was some AI created music that was being played live in a bar somewhere or something like that. I imagine it to be a jukebox is what they're talking about, but I don't even know if bars have jukeboxes anymore. It's dating myself. But my point is that, musicians and live music and the creation of that art form dovetails really well, I think, with the visual art that you all create, right? For the gig poster that is sort of an extension of the original advertisement, the handbill for gigs, and now it's become this larger sort of displayable collectible piece that concert goers like us just love to chase and collect. And from where I sit, more of a consumer of the product, not a creator, I can tell you, at least for my piece and friends that I haven't, Erica and I have this conversation, and for any band management listening, like, we have no interest in buying some type of computer generated image. That's not the fun. And if that's what you're thinking, I think you're missing the point. I think it's the experience of buying a gig poster sort of is a souvenir, yes, of the experience you had at the show or your love of the band, yes, but also when you find an artist that speaks to you in a certain way, their work, it resonates with you. It's just a really cool feeling. You can see that Easter egg. Like, I know what they're going for there. And Tiffany was saying that you plug in to listen to the music. I think that shines through in the creation. That's the cool, almost, I call it like soul element to the art. And if it's created with some AI generator or widget, what's it, who's he, what's it thing, I don't know what they call it. I am. I think it's a soulless piece. I think it's a piece that doesn't really connect, and it misses the point of what we're trying to do here, which is blend music and art.
Yeah, to add to your point, it's really obvious, or at least to me, when somebody invests their time and love into something that they create, it really shows. And so that really makes a huge difference.
Have you watched, there was a documentary we recently watched. It's like the Beatles, like, compendium of like how they created, what album was it? Was it the Come Together album? There's all these new clips that are like redone. And there was a scene, we're watching it, of like,
I think it's writing Eleanor Rigsby or something, right?
I think so. And it's just like brilliance of like watching the magic happen in the moment. And I feel like that is so important as humans, for us to take that creativity, that like inspiration, and then be able to like bring it and birth it to the world. And there's not a lot of us who have skill sets, like artistic skill sets. We all have, I think, different strengths for sure. But I'm always in awe when we see a piece of artwork that just is like, how did their brain come up with this? Like, how is that a reality now on a piece of paper in a way that then ties, oh, we were at that event? Or Mike and I are poster collectors because there are certain posters that we just love. We fall in love with, we chase, we pick up. We obviously get them from the shows that we go to, but we don't limit our collection to only shows that we attend, because I think that that's important. As for us, like, we consider ourselves art collectors. Gig posters are our art. That's the art that we like to collect. Some people like watercolors. Some people like,
Pokemon cards.
Right.
I've had people compare our collection. I've had a friend who was like, they're really just giant Pokemon cards. I was like, I think they're different than that, but I can see where you're going. And that was, I think, really a nod towards some of the shiny aspects of foil and things like that, which is an interesting separate question. Some artists have different preferences for the paper medium. What about you, Tiffany? Is there anything you like particularly working with? Paper versus foil versus different colored papers or things like that?
I love a shiny paper.
Yes.
Honestly.
You're my people.
Like, to your point, I mean, maybe not to your point, but, as a kid, I collected a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and pulling that foil card was just absolute bliss, just put it up to the light and see it shine. Beautiful. So posters are kind of like giant Pokemon Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
I think there's definitely an element for that, especially, the limited edition nature of them. Some of them can be very chase worthy, and you want that specific paper or that specific foil, and it's like, all right, well, there's only so many, so have at it, collectors. Before I forget, Tiffany, for our listeners, where can folks find you and find your work?
You can find me on Instagram, TWK Chin, that's TWKCHIN, or twkchin.com if you want to check out my website.
Absolutely. And for those listening, one of our favorite things to do is support artists. If you're looking for a piece of artwork for your own walls, or you were at a show and like just couldn't make it to the merch booth, This is such a great way to go and one, see if the artist has a piece that you really want, because that goes directly to support the artist. But you also have some art pieces too that are not gig related out on your website. Do you do those for fun? Like, how do you incorporate the difference between a piece of, just artwork that you want to create versus a gig poster?
Like I said earlier, I'm always drawing, like always doing the reps in some capacity. And, I like to challenge myself a lot for the personal pieces so I can actually prepare to create something that I'm happy with
Right.
for gig posters, for the bigger clients. But for the most part, I just try to have fun with my personal pieces, and try to do something weird and see what the feedback would be on Instagram. And if it's good, maybe I'll, perhaps do that for a poster.
So that's kind of like I was going to ask, like, which came first, like the chicken or the egg? Do you create the gig poster and then art comes out of it? But it sounds to me like the daily reps, the work that you put in every day just to keep the pencil sharp, so to speak. That's what then kind of can be the inspiration turning into a poster.
Yeah, that's totally right. Like I'll do a few sketches and then see, is this going to work? Is this not? Or, and, if it doesn't work, then I'll, revise it until it
Mhm.
does. That's another way of challenging myself to, make something out of nothing.
What is your favorite medium? I mean, are you a pencil paper, pen and paper, digital? Like, what do you like to kind of put down when you're just noodling on ideas?
Ooh, a few years ago, I was a pen to paper kind of girl.
Mhm.
I chose the pen because it's more permanent. You have to be really decisive with what you're doing. And gradually, that decisiveness just turned into me, turning on my iPad and just go straight to the drawing.
There's probably it's a little bit of a unique way to create digitally, especially when we're trying, like when you guys are creating the posters too, because there's that online vision and view of it. But I think I even read in one of your posts about it, the 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 uniqueness and what you see online sometimes is it comes across as different when it is that piece of paper, that tactile piece, because the screen printing is a different process, and the kind of the way that you use colors in screen printing is different than how it comes across digitally.
Yeah. When I do gig posters, I prioritize how it would appear full size. Full size is
Mhm.
typically 18 by 24. And so I try to incorporate a lot of detail because when you're looking at a piece in person on a big piece of paper, you can really take in all those details.
Mhm.
But when you're looking at things on a screen, it kind of bunches up together. And, I try to take that into consideration, but also I know how much fans love to collect posters. So I got to prioritize the fans first and got to prioritize the little Easter eggs and details.
Well, as fans, we highly appreciate that because that's part of the fun of it. I think there's like the old way used to be like there was like a barrier between artists and us as the fans. I think, for a long time going to a show, you just felt like there was just so much distance between you and a band. And now I think there's a between like online and social media and the way stories are, and band members can like pop onto stories, you can kind of keep this like connectivity that feels more, I don't know, it's not vulnerable, but like there just feels like a more personal connection. And it feels the same way with poster artists for us too. Like we've been collecting for a long time, and for so many years it was like we maybe knew the name of the artist, or we definitely knew a studio that it came from. But now with social media, it gives us the chance to feel connected to the artist in a way that we didn't have that before. And I don't know if you feel that way sort of on the reverse side. Like, do you feel more connected to people like Mike and I who are the collectors, or, is it more about contemporaries who you get to engage with?
I love it when people interact with my work and tell me their story of how the work has impacted them. And actually one of my first ever jobs was for Phish. I came out of college and Juliet Fish messaged me, and I had no idea what I was getting into. I had no idea like who Fish were. I had no idea what their fans were. When the posters came out, I I was flooded with all these messages of people telling me about how much the show meant to them. This was like their show of the year. They went there with their kids, and it was just really touching to have that sort of connection with the fans. And that's, irreplaceable.
Absolutely. I mean,
You did a big one for Phish at Madison Square Garden in 23 that is lights
that
out.
was one of my biggest ones yet. I was pretty proud of that one.
That's a venue that's somewhat well known.
Yeah, it's probably in the top 3 iconic venues in the United States for bands to play. It's like Oscar level.
The Mecca.
The Mecca of music, and to have a poster that then's tied to that venue is. I mean, Mike and I have luckily we've been to Madison Square Garden twice in our life, seen like multiples of shows like Dave Matthews Band, which I would love to see your work for, by the way. The Dave Matthews
Shameless
Band
plug.
people are listening, shameless plug, but we've seen them there. And then last year there was a music festival for a benefit concert for the Western Carolina Southern hurricane that we had in Florida, called Soul Shine, that was put on by Dave Matthews and Warren Haynes. But that's such an iconic venue, and for you to come out the gate to be like, it's Phish, it's Madison Square Garden, like that is incredible.
Yeah, like I had no idea what I was getting into, honestly, but it was all worth it. All worth it for Phish.
It's a tough venue to grab posters at too, because I think there's venues out there where maybe the merch booth or the poster booth is a little sleepier, and Madison Square Garden is one of those places that. I mean, I think locals come in to buy the posters and not even go to the show to some degree. There's so many people standing in line. It's insane. And there's all these floors through the garden. You kind of have to get strategic. You're either going to the main merch booth on level 1, or you look at it, you say, nope, that's like a mile long line. And then you sprint to the top of, level 4 and try to snag one there.
This is Mike's story
hypothetically
how he has to run up 4 flights of stairs.
Try to not blow a hammy, not tear your ACL while you're sprinting for posters.
The things we do to collect a poster.
That's right.
Well, one of the questions we like to ask our artists, because again, there is such a beautiful community of contemporaries out there. And you had mentioned it earlier that, you've been inspired by other artists. So what is a poster that you've seen recently that you did not do that you were like, that's pretty amazing?
Oh, a specific poster?
Yeah, it could be anything,
or an artist
that you just admire their work recently and are just kind of like, wow, they just keep pushing, and then they push you.
I gotta say, my artist would be Taylor Rushing.
Oh yeah.
He's amazing. He's like a master of typography. It's super clean, super creative. Also draws upon the 1970s influence. It's just absolutely gorgeous. And I try to model my typography after his, which is a challenge. Still working on it.
That's really cool. And that's the one thing we talk a lot about it. That one of the pieces that I love when I am admiring like the way that an artist treats the name of the band or the typography. And you have a unique like style that they all look different, and it's
wonderful.
And I love that you mentioned this word a few times, flow. You're like, I go with the flow, but that's what the work looks like. It's like the lettering is an extension of the poster, which is an extension of the music, which just like I said, it's just like there is that flow to it, which I love. We should rename the title of the episode. We're going with the flow.
Go with the flow.
The flow. But yeah, I mean, it's really, there's so many beautiful artists out there doing work. We're so lucky to be able to have pieces of artwork on our walls and
I was going to say, speaking of that, do you want to let us in on anything, Tiffany, you might have coming down the pike in 25 or maybe in 26? And again, please don't breach any confidences. Just, generally like more gig posters or anything you can share.
I can't really say anything else for now, but I am doing the Viva El Gonzo poster. So that's already out of the bag, so I can talk about that.
Yeah, that's out of the bag. They've shown that. So
yeah, but that's all I can review.
And I'm excited because to me that sounds like it's gonna be something different when we attend the event in 2026, but it will be of the of your style and similar to what they've put out there for the promotions and stuff.
You'll find out.
That's exciting.
Well, this is exciting because that's going to be one that we are going to be at the show for.
That's right.
And we will absolutely be getting in line to pick that up to add to our collection because...
And if we miss out, we will check out your AP drop. And that might just be easier than transporting it back from Mexico anyway, so...
Yeah. Well, Tiffany, we really are just so grateful for you coming on to Best of the Tour to share a little bit about your inspiration, about where you're going and where we can see you. Again, if you're listening out there, make sure you go follow Tiffany at TWK Chin, CHIN on Instagram, and shop at twkchin.com. Pick up some posters.
I did.
Mike has a tendency. We don't say it's a problem. We say it's a podcast.
That's right.
But Mike does have a tendency to shop while we're talking to the artists.
In Mike's defense, Erica did just say, go to Tiffany's website and, check out her work. And so I did. And then I may have bought something.
We got, well, the holidays.
The holidays are coming.
All right. Well, Tiffany, we are so excited to see what's coming up next for you. Thank you to the listeners of Best of the Tour. We hope you check out our episodes, subscribe to hear more content. Go follow Tiffany to see what's new with her. And we really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Mike and Erica. Love chatting with you.
All right. We'll talk soon.
Sweet.
Best of the Tour is presented by Invisible Industries. Find us at www.bestofthettour.com and on all major streaming platforms, including Spotify and Apple Music. You can also catch Erica and Mike on their other podcast, Posters in Every Direction, streaming wherever you stream your podcasts from. A big thanks for listening, and we will talk to you next time. If you're digging the stories that Erica and I are bringing you, and if you'd like to keep these podcasts going, please consider tipping us in the tip jar at buymeacoffee.com/bestofthettour. That's BUYMEA coffee.com/bestofthettour to support the podcast. Thanks, y'all.
Are you looking for some ways to get inspired and make some creative magic happen? Then you need to go stock up on art supplies. Head on over to bestofthettour.com and hit our Blick affiliate link. It's the same price, supports the show. Go check it out.
If you're like us, you love supporting the independent artists who make the art for the posters we love. So if you're looking for a new poster, look no further than shop.invisibleindustries.com. You can find their print collections, including art prints, limited edition prints, remarks, original works, and much, much more.
So go on over to shop.invisibleindustries.com to go check out what they've got in store.